Something changed inside Mercedes after Miami. Not in the points table, in the data. Russell is now running a setup direction that mirrors Antonelli's. And in Formula One, when a veteran starts chasing a rookie's telemetry, the paddock only reads that one way. Russell has tried to calm the situation down by calling Miami an outlier, but his recent moves are telling a much deeper story. He's been changing up his driving style, testing different setups, and even shifting closer to the same configuration Antonelli has been running. In Formula One, when a driver starts copying the direction of his teammate, people inside the paddock usually see that as someone chasing a benchmark they use to control themselves. Away from the track, the body language is adding even more drama. After qualifying, Russell looked noticeably uncomfortable, keeping a closed-off expression and barely interacting with people around him. Then came that awkward moment where he struggled getting out of the car while Toto Wolff stood nearby watching closely. That scene instantly sparked talk about tension building inside Mercedes. On top of that, Russell's radio messages have sounded more frustrated lately, and some observers are starting to connect the dots. There's growing chatter that the pressure from Antonelli's rapid rise could be getting under his skin. Meanwhile, outside voices are only adding more heat to the situation. David Coulthard even said Antonelli is now carrying the expectations of being Mercedes's main guy going forward. Damon Hill has started questioning George Russell's current level, and that only added more noise around Mercedes. Naomi Schiff also warned that situations like this can get messy fast, especially when personal ambition starts crashing into what the team wants overall. With all this pressure building, people are no longer asking if there's tension inside Mercedes, they're asking how long it will take before things explode into a real internal battle. So now, the big question is this: is Russell just going through a rough stretch? Or are we watching the early stages of a serious fight for control inside the team? Make sure to subscribe and keep watching, because this story could get even more intense as the season moves forward. What makes this situation feel so huge is how quickly everything changed inside Mercedes. At the beginning of the season, Russell looked like the obvious leader. He had the experience, the confidence, and the momentum to be the main championship threat for the team. His win in Australia, along with the consistency he showed through 2025, gave him real authority inside the garage and made him look like the clear number one driver. Antonelli, even with all the hype around his talent, was expected to learn alongside Russell, not instantly push him into the spotlight battle. But only 4 races into the season, the balance inside the team already feels completely different. Antonelli's 3 straight wins in China, Japan, and Miami were not lucky breaks or random results either. Even when outside factors played a part, like the safety car timing in Japan or Russell's qualifying struggles in China, Antonelli still put himself in the perfect position to take advantage like top drivers do. Then Miami changed the conversation even more. There were no excuses, no strange conditions, and no easy explanations. Antonelli looked faster, calmer, and sharper, with strategy all weekend long. Russell openly admitted the gap afterward, saying, "It was a very tough race. The pace was really poor on my side." He still insisted it wasn't his true level, adding, "This weekend I absolutely did not have the performance." He also made it clear that earlier races could have ended very differently, arguing that the championship fight is still far from over because momentum always shifts during a long Formula One season. That view comes from experience, and he's right that ups and downs are part of the sport. But this situation feels different because the pressure is not only coming from lost points, it's coming from how those points are being lost week after week. That's where the real tension starts building inside Mercedes. When one teammate keeps gaining the upper hand, especially in qualifying, it changes the entire flow of a race weekend. Antonelli's qualifying performances have been a massive factor so far. Starting from pole again and again has allowed him to control strategy from the front and force everyone else to react to him instead of the other way around. Even when things haven't gone perfectly, Antonelli has stayed incredibly composed. In Miami, he lost positions at the start, but instead of panicking, he calmly worked his way back without destroying his tires or ruining his race pace. That mix of aggression and control is usually something fans expect from veteran champions, not a young driver still early in his career. Russell's reaction, though, has looked far more complicated. When he talked about making quite drastic changes to his driving style, it sounded like a driver searching hard for answers and trying anything possible to close the gap. Sometimes that kind of adjustment works, but it can also backfire badly if the core problem isn't fully understood. Changing driving habits in the middle of a season is risky because confidence can disappear quickly once doubts start creeping in. And the scenes from Miami only pushed that narrative even harder. Russell, struggling to get himself out of the car after qualifying, along with his quieter and more tense body language, stood in sharp contrast to the calm and smooth atmosphere on Antonelli's side of the Mercedes garage. These might seem like tiny details from the outside, but in Formula One, small moments usually reveal much bigger stories behind the scenes. Little changes in behavior, reactions, and team dynamics can expose pressure long before anyone openly admits it. Right now, it feels like Russell is dealing with a situation that's evolving much faster than expected inside Mercedes. There's also the growing question about who the real reference point is within the team now. When a driver starts moving his setup direction closer to his teammates, people inside the paddock pay serious attention. It doesn't automatically mean one driver is worse than the other, but it does suggest the internal benchmark may be shifting. And at this stage, Antonelli's feedback and driving style seem to be influencing the development direction of the car far more than many expected this early in his career. Outside opinions are only making the conversation louder. David Coulthard saying Antonelli has earned the right to lead the championship wasn't based on hype or future potential. It was based on what's happening right now on track. Then Damon Hill added even more pressure by suggesting Russell has been missing a little bit lately, which immediately fueled more debate around his current form. Naomi Schiff also pointed toward the bigger issue that can develop in situations like this. Her warning that drivers need to remember they are not bigger than the team brings another layer of tension into the story. Once teammates begin battling this hard internally, strategy, politics, and personal ambition can quickly start colliding behind closed doors. Toto Wolff, meanwhile, has tried to keep the balance steady. He's continued backing Russell publicly, calling him a killer who knows how to respond after setbacks and tough weekends. But at the same time, Wolff keeps reminding everyone that Mercedes will always put the team first over individual goals. That careful balancing act says a lot on its own, because it quietly reveals just how sensitive the situation inside the garage may already be. Supporting both drivers equally starts becoming much harder once the performance gap begins to grow. And now all eyes are turning toward Canada as the next major test for Mercedes. George Russell's history at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, especially his 2025 win there, gives him a real chance to flip the momentum back in his favour. James Hinchcliffe also believes Russell could regain control of the narrative, pointing out that certain track layouts can completely change the balance between teammates. Montreal could be one of those tracks. The circuit's heavy braking zones and strong focus on traction may fit Russell's driving style much better than some of the recent races. That's why Canada suddenly feels massive for him. A strong weekend there could calm a lot of the growing questions surrounding his current form inside the team. But the pressure Russell is facing goes way beyond simple competition. This is a huge stage in his career, where every chance to fight for a world championship matters more than ever. Antonelli, meanwhile, is still building his long-term future and gaining experience with every race. That difference changes how each driver handles risk, strategy calls, and the politics that naturally come with an intense teammate battle. Inside Mercedes, managing all of this could become one of the toughest challenges for Toto Wolff and the leadership group. The team already lived through a major internal rivalry during the Hamilton and Rosberg years, so they understand how quickly situations can spiral if emotions take over behind the scenes. That history is a big reason Wolff has been so careful with his public comments lately. Letting both drivers race freely can push the team to higher performance levels. But it also creates the danger of conflict if clear boundaries are not in place. Right now, things are still under control. There haven't been any major flashpoints yet. No controversial team orders, no direct on-track clashes, and no serious communication breakdowns inside the garage. But just because there hasn't been open conflict yet doesn't mean everything is stable inside Mercedes. In Formula One, quiet periods like this can sometimes be the stage right before tensions rise and major decisions start carrying bigger consequences. As pressure builds, positions inside the team can harden very quickly. The Constructors' Championship only makes the situation even more complicated. Mercedes needs strong results from both drivers if they want to stay competitive at the top, and any internal drama that damages race outcomes could seriously hurt the team's goals. That's a huge reason why Toto Wolff keeps stressing discipline and balance every time he speaks publicly. At the same time, Formula One has always been deeply individualistic. Drivers are judged by wins, podiums, and championships just as much as they are by helping the team overall. When personal goals and team objectives match up, things run smoothly. But once those priorities begin pulling in different directions, the pressure can rise fast and create serious complications behind the scenes. Russell's current position sits right in the middle of that battle. He still has the talent to fight back, the experience to adapt, and the backing of a team that values everything he brings. But now, he's also dealing with a teammate whose performances are changing expectations almost race by race. That's what makes this story so intense right now. Antonelli, meanwhile, has stayed remarkably calm through all the attention. After Miami, he simply said, "This is just the beginning. The road is still long," showing he understands the bigger picture without trying to create extra headlines. Instead of talking too much, he's letting his driving and results do the work for him. And that contrast may actually be making the situation feel even bigger. While Russell is explaining setbacks, experimenting with adjustments, and trying to reset momentum, Antonelli just keeps delivering results on track. In a sport completely driven by performance, that difference carries massive weight. The next stretch of the season could decide whether this Mercedes situation settles down quietly or turns into a full internal showdown. If Russell manages to close the gap and match Antonelli again, then this internal fight could stay a huge strength for Mercedes. But if Antonelli keeps extending his advantage, the team may eventually have no choice but to step in with tighter management and more controlled decisions. And that's where things can start getting very uncomfortable inside the garage. Once one driver becomes the clear championship leader, every strategy call suddenly becomes more sensitive. Decisions about pit timing, track position, tyre strategy, and race priorities can instantly create tension between teammates. Even subtle team orders can change relationships fast and completely shift the mood inside a Formula One team. Naomi Schiff's point about balancing personal ambition with team expectations really captures the heart of the situation. This isn't just some fantasy scenario fans are creating online. These are real problems top teams eventually have to deal with when two competitive drivers are fighting under massive pressure during a championship season. Right now, Mercedes still looks relatively calm from the outside. The drivers are following team structures, communication remains professional, and the public messaging has stayed controlled. But underneath all of that, The biggest pressure points are growing stronger every race weekend: the performance gap, the championship fight, and the personal ambitions on both sides of the garage. The real question isn't whether these factors will eventually collide. It's about when and how it happens. Formula One almost never allows situations like this to stay quiet forever, because the pressure inside the sport only keeps building once momentum starts shifting. Rivalries tend to intensify, not disappear. That's why the focus moving forward won't only be about lap times and race wins. The bigger story will be how Russell reacts, how Antonelli handles the growing spotlight, and how Mercedes manages the balance between them without losing control of the bigger picture. Those decisions could shape not only the championship fight, but also the long-term stability inside the team itself. If Antonelli keeps performing at this level while Russell continues searching for solutions, Mercedes could eventually face a decision that goes way beyond setup choices or race strategy. At that point, it becomes about hierarchy, influence, and timing inside one of Formula One's biggest teams. And history shows those moments almost never end quietly. So now the question hanging over Mercedes is impossible to ignore. If Antonelli keeps winning while Russell keeps chasing from behind, will the team really allow this battle to continue freely all the way through the season? Or will they step in before the pressure grows into something much harder to manage? Don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss the latest Formula One news and updates.